The alarm bells rang across Nexus Prime, the massive space station that served as the heart of the Galactic Council. Admiral Sefkara rushed through the curved hallways, her 6 legs clicking against the metal floor. She had never heard the emergency alarm sound like this before. In her 40 years of service to the hegemony, nothing had ever made the Council call an immediate meeting of all 47 member species. The main chamber was already filling with representatives from across the galaxy. The air buzzed with nervous energy as beings of different shapes and sizes took their seats. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others needed special masks or tanks. The crystalline collective sent their usual floating diamond-shaped ambassador, while the insect-like swarm queens chittered anxiously in their section. Zethkara took her place at the front of the chamber. As the current military commander of the Council forces, she would be presenting today's evidence. The holographic display system hummed to life above the center of the room, casting blue light across the worried faces of the assembled aliens. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, Zethkara began, her voice carrying through the translation. Systems to reach every species in their own language. What I am about to show you will change how we view the humans forever. A murmur ran through the crowd. Humans were still considered one of the younger species in the galaxy. They had only joined the Council 50 years ago, and most aliens saw them as primitive but harmless. Their technology was basic compared to the advanced civilizations that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. The holographic display lit up, showing a recorded battle scene. 3 large pirate fleets hung in space near a remote planet in the Outer Rim territories. The pirates had been attacking trade ships for months, and the Council had been planning a military response. But before they could act, something else had arrived. A single human ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It was huge, easily a kilometer long, with a design that looked both elegant and terrifying. The hull was dark gray, almost black, with strange blue lines running along its surface like veins. The ship had a name painted on its side in human letters. Use Prometheus. This recording was taken 6 days ago by a merchant vessel that was hiding behind the planet's moon. Zethkara explained, watch carefully. The pirate fleets immediately opened fire on the human ship. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked through space toward the Prometheus. The weapons should have torn the ship apart in seconds. Instead, something impossible happened. The attack simply bent around the ship. Energy beams curved away, like water flowing around a stone. Missiles changed direction and flew harmlessly into empty space. It was as if reality itself was protecting the human vessel. Several council members gasped. The hegemony's own scientists had been trying to create such perfect shields for centuries without success. Then the Prometheus fired back. What came out of the human ship's weapons was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or missiles, the ship seemed to fire tears in space itself. Dark rifts opened in front of the pirate ships, and whatever touched those rifts simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or vaporized, they just stopped being. There, as if they had never existed at all, the first pirate fleet of 30 ships was gone in under 10 seconds. The second fleet tried to run, but the Prometheus moved faster than light itself, appearing instantly wherever it wanted to be. Another volley of impossible weapons, and the second fleet vanished into nothingness. The third pirate fleet attempted to surrender, broadcasting desperate pleas on all frequencies. The Prometheus paused for exactly 30 seconds, then fired. Again. Every pirate ship in the system was erased from existence in less than 3 minutes. The recording ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The power displayed by this single human vessel, Zethkara continued, exceeds the combined firepower of our entire council fleet. Their shields appear to manipulate the laws of physics themselves. Their weapons can literally cut holes in reality, and their speed suggests they have mastered technologies we do not even understand. A representative from the aquatic depth swimmer spoke up, his words bubbling through his water-filled speaking apparatus. Surely this is some kind of trick or illusion. Humans are barely capable of building proper starships. How could they create something like this? We thought the same thing, Zethkara replied. So we sent a science vessel to examine the battle site. What we found was even more disturbing. The holographic display changed to show an empty region of space. But it was not just empty, it was wrong somehow. The very fabric of space-time appeared damaged, full of small tears and twisted areas where the laws of physics no longer worked properly. The space where the pirate ships were destroyed is permanently scarred, Zethkara explained. Our scientists believe the human weapons do not just destroy matter and energy, they actually damage the universe itself. If used on a large scale, such weapons could threaten the stability of entire star systems. The chamber erupted in frightened voices. Representatives shouted questions and demands in dozens of different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the chaos. The Supreme Chancellor, an ancient being from the Firstborn species, raised one of his many arms for silence. His voice was old and wise, carrying the weight of thousands of years. This council has faced many threats during our long history. We have survived wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters. But never before have we encountered weapons that could damage the universe itself. He paused, letting his words sink in. I hereby call for an immediate vote on Resolution 1047 Alpha, the complete ban of all Prometheus-class vessels and similar weapons of mass cosmic destruction. All species will be required to immediately cease development of reality-damaging weapons. Any existing vessels of this type must be decommissioned within 30 standard days. The vote was swift and unanimous. 47 species, representing thousands of worlds and trillions of beings, all agreed that such weapons were too dangerous to exist, but one chair in the chamber remained occupied. Captain Elena Vasquez, Earth's military representative too. The council had been sitting quietly throughout the presentation. She was a small woman by human standards, with graying hair and tired eyes that had seen too much war. As the vote concluded, she finally stood to speak. Honored members of the council, she began in perfect galactic standard, her voice calm despite the tension in the room. I understand your fear. The Prometheus is indeed a powerful weapon, one that we did not build lightly. But before you make final demands of Earth, there is something you need to know. She activated her own holographic display, showing data from human deep space monitoring stations. The readings showed massive disturbances at the very edge of the galaxy, in the dark space between star systems where no one ever traveled. For the past 6 months, our long-range sensors have been detecting unusual activity in the galactic void. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Movement patterns suggesting ships of enormous size heading toward inhabited space. We shared this data with the Council 3 months ago, but it was dismissed as sensor errors. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably. They remembered the human reports but had not taken them seriously. Human technology was considered too primitive to detect anything their own advanced sensors could not see. Elena continued, her voice growing more urgent. 2 weeks ago, we finally got a clear reading on what is coming. The Void Devourers have returned. The chamber fell dead silent. The Void Devourers were legend, a nightmare from the galaxy's ancient past. According to the oldest records, they had appeared once before, over 1,000 years ago, consuming entire civilizations before mysteriously vanishing back into dark space. Most modern species considered them myth. The old stories say that when the Devourers come, they do not just destroy planets or kill populations, Elena said quietly. They consume reality itself, leaving behind expanding zones of absolute nothingness. They turn entire star systems into void as if they had never existed. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from species that had refused to believe her warnings. The Prometheus was not built to fight pirates or conquer worlds. It was built using technology we found in ancient ruins. Weapons left behind by the last civilization to successfully fight the Devourers. We built it because we knew they would return, and we knew that conventional weapons would be useless against them. Admiral Zethkara spoke up, her voice skeptical. Even if these Devourers exist, surely the combined fleets of the Council can handle any threat. We have the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Elena pulled up another display, this one showing the edge of hegemony space. 3 days ago, your border patrol encountered the first Devourer scout ships. 5 of your most advanced cruisers engaged a single enemy vessel. This is what happened. The recording was brief and terrifying. The hegemony ships opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons struck the Devourer vessel but seemed to do no damage at all. Instead, the dark alien ship simply moved forward, and wherever it touched, the hegemony vessels began to dissolve. Not explode or burn, they simply faded away like shadows at dawn. Within minutes, all 5 ships and their crews had ceased to exist. Your ships and crews were not killed, Elena explained. They were unmade. Returned to the void from which all matter originally came. The Devourers do not destroy, they undo creation itself. The Supreme Chancellor's ancient face was grim. Why did we not receive this report? Because there was nothing left to report, Elena replied. No wreckage, no survivors, no evidence that your ships had ever existed. The only reason we know about the battle is because one of our long-range monitoring stations recorded it happening. She stood straighter, her voice becoming formal. The Council has voted to ban the one weapon that might be able to stop this threat. Very well, Earth will comply with your demands. We will decommission the Prometheus and abandon our defensive preparations. When the Devourers reach your worlds, you can face them with conventional weapons and your moral superiority. Elena began walking toward the exit, but the Supreme Chancellor called out to stop her. Captain Vasquez, surely we can reach some accommodation. If this threat is real, she turned back, her expression cold. For months, Earth warned this council about the approaching danger. We shared our sensor data, offered our assistance, and tried to prepare a coordinated defense. In response, you called us paranoid, primitive, and warmongers. You have made your position clear. But the safety of the galaxy is apparently less important than maintaining your political authority. Elena interrupted. You want to ban our weapons, but expect us to save you with them anyway. The irony would be amusing if billions of lives were not at stake. She continued toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. Just before she reached the door, she stopped and looked back one final time. The Devourers will reach the outer colonies in approximately 40 days. They will be at the galactic core within 6 months. I suggest you use that time to prepare conventional defenses, since those are apparently all you trust. Earth will be making our own preparations. As the door closed behind her, the council chamber erupted in panicked discussions. Some representatives demanded that the vote be reconsidered. Others insisted that humans were exaggerating the threat to avoid punishment for their illegal weapons. A few began making urgent calls to their home governments, preparing for the worst. Admiral Zefkara stared at the empty space where Elena had been standing. Deep in her military mind, she was already calculating how long her forces could hold. Against an enemy that could simply erase ships from existence. The math was not encouraging. Back on Earth, Admiral Chun was waiting for Elena's report in the underground command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. The walls were lined with displays showing the construction status of humanity's secret defense project. 3 more Prometheus-class ships were nearing completion in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. So they banned it? Chun asked as Elena entered the room. Unanimously, she replied, sinking into a chair. And when I showed them proof of the Devourer scouts, they still insisted we disarm ourselves. Chun nodded grimly. Politicians, they never change, no matter what species they belong to. He turned to look at the construction displays. Well, they can ban the Prometheus all they want, but they cannot stop us from building more of them in secret. Elena looked troubled. Are you sure about this, Admiral? If we defy the Council openly, they will do what? Invade Earth? Chun laughed bitterly. With what ships? In 40 days, they will be fighting for their lives against an enemy they refuse to believe exists. By then, they will be begging us for help. He walked over to the main display, which showed the current position of the Devourer fleets. The dark ships were moving slowly but steadily toward inhabited space, consuming everything in their path. The Council thinks they can ignore the threat and ban our weapons, Chun said quietly. They are about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between political power and actual power. Outside the command center, construction crews worked around the clock to complete humanity's secret fleet. The Prometheus had been just the beginning. Soon, Earth would have 4 ships capable of fighting the Devourers on equal terms. Whether the galaxy wanted their help or not, humans would be ready for the war that was coming. The question was whether anyone would be left to save by the time the Council finally swallowed their pride and asked for help. 6 weeks had passed since the Council banned the Prometheus, and Admiral Chun was not sleeping well. The secret construction sites hidden throughout Earth's solar system worked without stopping. 3 new ships were taking shape in the asteroid belt, far from the eyes of Council spies. But Chin knew they were running out of time. The mining station series had been converted into a massive shipyard. Thousands of human workers lived there now, building weapons that officially did not exist. They worked in shifts around the clock, welding hull plates and installing systems that most of them did not understand. The technology was beyond anything humanity had created before. Built from blueprints found in ancient ruins on dead worlds, Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the main assembly bay, watching as technicians carefully installed the most important part of each ship. The artifact core looked like a massive crystal, but it was not made of any material known to science. It pulsed with soft blue light and seemed to whisper at the edge of hearing. Just looking at it too long gave people headaches. How many more cores do we have? Chun asked, joining her at the observation window. This is the last one, Sarah replied. We found 4 cores total in the ruins on Kepler 438b. 1 is already installed in the Prometheus. These 3 will complete our fleet. Chun nodded, but his expression was worried. 4 ships against an entire invasion force. It does not seem like enough. The cores are not just power sources, Sarah explained. Our tests show they are some kind of living technology. They respond to human brain patterns in ways we do not understand. When a human pilot connects with a core, the ship becomes something more than just a machine. She pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans from the Prometheus crew. The patterns were unlike anything seen in normal humans. Captain Torres has been bonded with his ship's core for 3 months now. His neural activity has changed. Dramatically, he can sense things happening light years away. He knows where enemy ships are before our sensors detect them. Is it safe? Chun asked. Sarah hesitated. We do not know. The changes seem to be permanent. Torres says he feels like he is becoming part of the ship itself. Sometimes he forgets he has a human body. Before Chen could respond, alarms began sounding. Throughout the station, red lights flashed as the automated voice announced an emergency. Chun rushed to the nearest communication console and opened a channel to Earth Command. Admiral, we are getting reports from the Outer Rim, the voice of his aide crackled through the speaker. The Devourers have reached inhabited space. The colony world of New Geneva is under attack. Chun felt his blood turn cold. New Geneva was home to 3 million people from a dozen different species. It was supposed to be safe, protected by early warning systems and defense platforms. What is the status of the colony? He asked. There was a long pause. Sir, there is no colony. New Geneva is gone. The entire star system has been ... erased. Our long-range sensors show nothing but empty space where the system used to be. The communications officer continued reading reports as they came in. We are also receiving distress calls from the hegemony border worlds. At least 6 systems are reporting massive dark ships approaching. The local defense fleets are moving to intercept. Chin closed the channel and turned to Sarah. How long until our ships are ready? The Titan and Nemesis can be operational in 72 hours, she replied. The Olympus needs another week to complete the core integration. We do not have a week, Chun said grimly. Prep the first 2 ships for immediate deployment. And get me Captain Torres on secure communication. Meanwhile, in the Hegemony home system, Admiral Zethkara was facing the worst military disaster in her species' history. 3 of their most powerful battle fleets had engaged the Devourer advance forces near the colony world of Threshold Prime. The battle had lasted exactly 14 minutes. The Hegemony ships had fought bravely, using every weapon in their arsenal. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and gravity bombs had all been fired at the dark alien vessels. Nothing had worked. The Devourer ships simply absorbed the attacks and continued their advance. When they reached the Hegemony fleet, they began their terrible work. Zethkara watched the battle recordings with growing horror. The Hegemony ships did not explode when the Devourers touched them. Instead, they faded away like smoke, taking their crews with them. 200 ships and 50,000 trained soldiers simply ceased to exist. How many Devourer vessels were destroyed? She asked her tactical officer. None, Admiral. Our weapons had no effect whatsoever. Zethkara stared at the tactical display showing the positions of the remaining Devourer fleets. They were moving slowly but steadily toward the galactic core, consuming everything in their path. At their current rate of advance, they would reach the Hegemony capital in less than 4 months. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Emergency session, all members. Tell them we need to discuss immediate defensive measures. But even as she gave the order, Zethkara knew it was probably too late. The conventional weapons of the Council species were useless against an enemy that could simply unmake matter itself. They needed something else, something that could fight the Devourers on their own terms, something like the human ship. They had banned the Emergency Council. Session was even more chaotic than the last one. Representatives from dozens of species shouted accusations and demands while their homeworlds burned. The Proud Synthesis Collective had tried to negotiate with the Devourers, sending a diplomatic fleet to establish communication. The alien response had been swift and final. The entire diplomatic mission was erased from existence in seconds. The insect-like swarm queens buzzed angrily about humans and their illegal weapons. This is clearly a human trick, the queen speaker clicked through her translator. They created these Devourers to force us to accept their banned weapons. The humans barely have the technology to reach other star systems, added a representative from the crystalline species. How could they create an invasion force that can erase matter itself? Supreme Chancellor Valdris raised his arms for silence. Despite his great age, his voice still carried authority. The origin of the Devourers is not important now. What matters is how we stop them. Our conventional weapons have proven useless. We need new strategies. A holographic display showed the current tactical situation. Red zones marked areas where Devourer fleets had passed, leaving nothing but empty space behind. Yellow zones showed systems currently under attack. The pattern was clear. The aliens were moving in a coordinated advance toward the most populated areas of the galaxy. The humans warned us this would happen, Admiral Zethkara said quietly. Their representative showed us sensor data proving the Devourers were coming. We ignored her warnings. Because their technology is primitive, the Swarm Queen speaker insisted. Their sensors cannot detect what our advanced systems miss. And yet their sensors were right and ours were wrong, Zethkara replied. Perhaps we should reconsider our opinion of human capabilities. Supreme Chancellor Valdris looked around the chamber. Many seats were empty now, representatives from species whose homeworlds had already been consumed by the advancing darkness. Does anyone have alternative suggestions for stopping this invasion? The chamber fell silent. For all their advanced technology and superior attitudes, none of the Council species had any idea how to fight an enemy that could erase reality itself. Finally, the representative from the aquatic depth swimmers spoke up. We could send a message to Earth, ask them to reconsider the deployment of their banned weapon. Absolutely not, the Queen speaker buzzed angrily. We cannot reward their defiance of Council law. If we allow humans to ignore our bans, every primitive species will think they can do the same. Better a damaged legal system than no legal system at all, Zethkara pointed out. If the Devourers consume the galaxy, there will be no Council left to enforce any laws. The debate continued for hours, but no decisions were reached. The council was paralyzed by pride and politics while their civilizations burned. On Earth, Captain Torres stood in the neural interface chamber aboard the UES Prometheus. The room was filled with strange machinery that connected directly to the ship's alien core. Dozens of thin cables ran from the walls to a special chair in the center of the room. When Torres sat in that chair and activated the interface, he became something more than human. The connection process was always uncomfortable, Torres felt. His consciousness expanded beyond his physical body, spreading throughout the ship's systems. He could sense every component, every energy flow, every quantum fluctuation in the hull. The ancient alien technology recognized him as its partner, sharing power and knowledge that no human was meant to possess. But the cost was becoming more apparent each time he used the interface. Torres could feel his human memories fading, replaced by vast knowledge from the alien core. He remembered things that had happened millions of years ago, battles fought by species that no longer existed. Sometimes he forgot his own name or the faces of his family. "Captain Torres, this is Admiral Chun," a voice spoke through the ship's communication system. "We need the Prometheus ready for immediate deployment." Torres opened his eyes, though he was not sure when he had closed them. The neural interface always left him disoriented for several minutes. "What is our mission, Admiral?" "The Devourers have reached inhabited space. Multiple systems are under attack. The Council fleets cannot stop them with conventional weapons." "Are we authorized to engage?" Torres asked. There was a pause before Chun answered. "Not officially. The Council ban is still in effect. But people are dying, and we are the only ones who can help them." Torres stood up slowly, disconnecting from the neural interface. Even without the direct connection, he could still feel the ship's alien core humming in the back of his mind. The Prometheus wanted to fight. The ancient technology recognized the Devourers as its eternal enemy. "How long until the Titan and Nemesis are ready to join us?" Torres asked. "Captain Rodriguez reports the Titan will be operational in 6 hours, Chun replied. "Captain Williams needs 12 hours to complete the neural bonding with the Nemesis core." Torres nodded, though he knew the Admiral could not see him. "We should not wait. Every hour of delay means more systems consumed. I am taking the Prometheus out immediately." "Captain, are you sure you can handle a Devourer fleet alone?" Torres smiled grimly. Through his connection to the ship's core, he could sense the approaching alien vessels. They moved through space like holes in reality itself, consuming light and matter as they advanced. But they were not invincible. The ancient technology in the Prometheus had been specifically designed to fight such enemies. "Admiral, the Devourers are not as powerful as they appear," Torres explained. "They draw their strength from the void between realities. But the Prometheus core comes from the same source. When we fight them, it will be void against void, entropy against entropy." He walked toward the bridge, feeling the ship respond to his presence. The alien technology was eager for battle after sleeping for so long. "Tell the Council they can keep their ban. We are going to save their civilizations whether they want us to or not." The Prometheus powered up its impossible engines and disappeared from Earth's solar system in a flash of twisted space-time. Behind it, 2 more ships prepared for their own launches, crewed by humans who were willing to sacrifice their humanity to save a galaxy that had rejected them. The real war was about to begin. The used Prometheus dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler system, where the hegemony had established their last defensive line. Captain Torres felt the ship's ancient core pulse with anticipation as they approached. The battle zone. Through his neural link he could sense the wrongness ahead. Reality itself was being torn apart. 3 hegemony battle groups hung in space around the system's outer planets, their ships arranged in defensive formations that had worked for thousands of years. But Torres could see they were fighting an enemy that did not follow the old rules of warfare. The Devourer fleet moved through space like a cancer, leaving trails of absolute nothingness behind them. "This is Admiral Zethkara of the Hegemony. Third Fleet," a transmission crackled through the Prometheus communication system. Unknown vessel, you are entering a restricted military zone. Identify yourself immediately. Torres opened a channel from the bridge. This is Captain Torres of the UES Prometheus. We are here to assist in your defense against the Devourer fleet. There was a long pause before Zethkara responded. The Prometheus? That ship is banned by Galactic Council law. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Admiral, with respect, your fleets are about to be destroyed, Torres replied. We have weapons that can actually hurt these enemies. Let us help. We do not need help from humans, Zethkara said coldly. Our forces are more than capable of handling any threat. Torres sighed and closed the communication channel. Through the ship's sensors, he could see the Devourer fleet approaching the hegemony defensive line. There were 12 of the dark alien vessels, each one the size of a small moon. They moved slowly but with terrible purpose, their hulls seeming to absorb all light that touched them. The hegemony fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the advancing Devourers. The weapons struck their targets with enough force to destroy entire planets, but the dark ships continued their advance without slowing. The attack simply vanished into the void black holes, as if they had never existed. Then the Devourers returned fire. What came from the alien ships was not energy or missiles, but pure nothingness itself. Dark beams reached out across space, and wherever they touched, hegemony vessels began to fade from existence. The proud warships that had protected the galaxy for centuries simply stopped being real, taking their crews with them into oblivion. Torres watched in horror as an entire battle group of 50 ships was erased in less than a minute. The hegemony formation broke apart as surviving vessels tried desperately to escape the advancing darkness. But the Devourers were faster than they appeared, moving through space in ways that defied physics. All ships, retreat to fallback positions, Admiral Zethkara's panicked voice broadcast across all frequencies. Request immediate reinforcements from the home fleet. But Torres knew no reinforcements would matter. Conventional weapons could not touch the Devourers, and conventional shields could not stop their reality-erasing attacks. Only the ancient technology in the Prometheus had any chance of fighting these enemies on equal terms. Computer, take us into battle, Torres commanded, settling into the neural interface chair on the bridge. Full connection to the core systems. The neural link activated with a surge of alien power that made Torres gasp. His consciousness expanded beyond his human body, flowing through every system of the ship. He could feel the Prometheus come alive around him, ancient weapons powering up after sleeping for millions of years. The ship's core whispered to him in languages older than civilization, sharing memories of the last war against the void. The Prometheus accelerated toward the Devourer fleet, its reality-bending engines carrying it across impossible distances in seconds. The ship's appearance began to change as the alien technology fully activated. The hull seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy, existing in multiple dimensions at once. The nearest Devourer vessel detected the approaching human ship and turned to engage. A beam of absolute nothingness lanced out toward the Prometheus, the same weapon that had erased dozens of hegemony vessels. But when the attack reached the human ship, something different happened. The void beam struck the Prometheus and simply stopped. The ship's shields did not deflect the attack or absorb it. They canceled it out completely, turning nothingness back into normal space. The ancient technology recognized its enemy and responded with equal power. Torres felt the ship's weapons lock onto the Devourer vessel. Fire, he whispered, his voice echoing with alien harmonics. The Prometheus fired its main weapon, a focused beam of pure creation energy. Where the Devourer had attacked with void, the human ship struck back with the opposite force reality itself made manifest. The beam pierced through the alien hull like it was made of paper, and for the first time in the battle, a Devourer vessel showed damage. The dark ship reeled from the impact, its void black hull flickering with cracks of brilliant light. Other Devourer vessels immediately turned toward the Prometheus. Recognizing a real threat for the first time in thousands of years, the remaining Hegemony ships had stopped their retreat to watch the impossible battle. Admiral Zethkara stared at her tactical displays in amazement as the single human vessel engaged an entire Devourer fleet. "How is this possible?" she whispered to her crew. The answer was beyond anything the Hegemony could understand. The Prometheus was not just a ship anymore. It was a living weapon created by an ancient civilization specifically to fight the forces of entropy. Every system was designed to counter the Devourer's reality-erasing abilities with equal and opposite power. Torres guided the ship through a complex battle maneuver that would have been impossible for any normal vessel. The Prometheus phased in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing around the Devourer fleet like a ghost. Each time it materialized, the ship fired devastating bursts of creation energy that tore holes in the alien hulls. But the Devourers were learning. They began to coordinate their attacks, firing void beams from multiple directions at once. Even the Prometheus could not cancel out that much nothingness simultaneously. One of the attacks got through the ship's defenses, striking the port hull and erasing a section of armor plating. Torres felt the damage as if it was his own body being hurt. The neural link made the ship an extension of himself, and any injury to the Prometheus was also an injury to his mind. He could feel his human memories being eaten away by the void energy, replaced by alien knowledge and cosmic awareness. "Warning. Hull breach on Deck 7, the ship's computer announced. Reality distortion detected in the damaged area. Torres forced himself to focus through the pain. The battle was far from over, and he could sense more Devourer fleets approaching from deep space. This was just the beginning of their invasion force. "Computer, prepare the quantum lance," he ordered. "Target the lead Devourer vessel for maximum damage." The quantum lance was the Prometheus' most powerful weapon, capable of cutting through the fabric of space-time itself. But using it required Torres to merge even more deeply with the ship's alien core, risking the complete loss of his human identity. As the weapon charged, Torres felt his consciousness expand beyond anything he had experienced before. He could see across vast distances of space and time, witnessing the true scope of the Devourer invasion. Hundreds of their fleets were moving through the galaxy, consuming entire civilizations and leaving expanding zones of nothingness behind them. But he could also see something else, the ancient enemy these creatures truly served. Deep in the void between galaxies, something massive stirred in response to the battle. The Null Emperor, a being of pure entropy that sought to return the universe to its original state of emptiness, was awakening after eons of sleep. "Captain Torres, this is Admiral Chun," a voice broke through his cosmic awareness. "We are reading massive power buildup from your position. What is your status?" Torres tried to respond, but found he had forgotten how to speak with a human voice. The alien core was taking over more of his mind with each passing moment. Finally, he managed to form words that carried both human meaning and cosmic truth. "The lance is ready," he said, his voice echoing with harmonics that hurt to hear. "Firing. Now." The quantum lance erupted from the Prometheus with the force of a collapsing star. The beam tore through normal space and struck the lead Devourer vessel directly in its core. For a moment, creation and destruction battled on a fundamental level, as opposing forces of the universe met in direct conflict. Then the Devourer ship simply came apart. Not destroyed or exploded, but unraveled back into the basic components of reality. The other alien vessels recoiled from the destruction of their leader, their formation breaking apart in what might have been fear. The remaining hegemony ships cheered as they watched their impossible enemy retreat for the first time. But Torres knew the victory was temporary. The Devourers would return with larger fleets and more powerful weapons, and each battle would cost him more of his humanity. "All hegemony vessels, this is Captain Torres," he broadcast on all frequencies. "The immediate threat is over, but more enemy fleets are approaching. You need to evacuate your remaining forces, and warn the Council that conventional defenses will not work against these enemies." Admiral Zethkara's voice came back immediately. "Captain, how did you do that? What kind of weapons do you have?" Torres paused, struggling to find words that could explain technology beyond current understanding. The weapons are not the important part, Admiral. What matters is that we are willing to use them to protect innocent lives, even when the galaxy has banned them. He closed the communication and turned the Prometheus toward the edge of the system. Through his neural link, he could sense two more human ships approaching. The Titan and Nemesis were finally ready for battle. But he could also feel his own humanity slipping away with each use of the alien technology. Dr. Sarah Kim's voice came through the ship's internal communication system. Captain, your neural patterns are showing dangerous changes. You need to disconnect from the core interface immediately. Not yet, Torres replied, though his voice sounded less human than before. The Devourers are regrouping for another attack. The galaxy needs every weapon we have. As the Prometheus moved to rendezvous with the other human ships, Torres felt the alien core whisper ancient secrets in his mind. The war against the void had been fought before, in the early days of the universe when creation and entropy first came into conflict. The current invasion was just the latest battle in a cosmic struggle that had been going on since the beginning of time. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Null Emperor was stirring, preparing to personally lead the final assault against existence itself. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their history. Half the chamber was empty now, with representatives from 12 species missing after their homeworlds had been consumed by the Devourer fleets. The remaining aliens sat in stunned silence as Admiral Zethkara presented her battle report. The single human vessel destroyed 3 Devourer ships and forced the entire enemy fleet to retreat, she said, her voice filled with disbelief. In 5 minutes, they accomplished what our combined fleets could not do in 3 days of fighting. Supreme Chancellor Valdris looked older than his thousands of years. And you are certain these were the same enemies that erased our border fleets? Positive, Zethkara replied. The same weapons that turned 50 of our best ships into nothingness had no effect on the human vessel. Their technology appears to be specifically designed to counter Devourer attacks. The Queen Speaker of the Swarm buzzed angrily. This proves the humans created these Devourers themselves. They attack with impossible creatures, then appear with the perfect weapons to stop them. It is an obvious trick to make us dependent on their banned technology. Several other representatives nodded in agreement, but Zethkara shook her head firmly. I have seen the recordings from our deep space monitors. The Devourers came from the galactic void exactly as the humans predicted, and the technology they used against our enemies is clearly ancient, far older than human civilization. She activated a holographic display showing detailed scans of the Prometheus during the battle. Look at these energy signatures. The patterns match ruins we have found on dead worlds throughout the galaxy, remains of civilizations that existed millions of years before humans learned to make fire. The chamber fell quiet as the implications sank in. If the human weapons were based on ancient technology, then they had not created the Devourer threat. They had simply been the first to recognize it and prepare defenses. Where are the humans? Now? Asked the representative from the Crystal Collective. Their 3 ships are operating independently, Zethkara reported. They have not requested permission for their actions, nor have they consulted with Council forces. They appear to be engaging Devourer fleets wherever they find them. At that moment, urgent alarms began sounding throughout the Council station. An aide rushed to Valdris with a priority message tablet. The Supreme Chancellor read it quickly, his ancient face growing pale. The Devourer main fleet has been detected, he announced. Over 200 vessels approaching the galactic core. They will reach the Council home systems in less than 6 weeks. Panic erupted in the chamber. Representatives shouted questions and demands while their translators struggled to keep up. Some called for immediate evacuation of the core worlds. Others demanded a final military stand with every ship they could gather. How many Council vessels remain operational? Valdris asked when the noise died down. Zethkara checked her reports. Approximately 8,000 ships from all member species combined. But based on previous encounters, conventional weapons will be completely useless against a force this size. Then we need the humans, said the representative from the depth swimmers. Whatever our pride costs us, it cannot be worth the extinction of our civilizations. Never, the Queen Speaker buzzed furiously. We will not beg for help from primitives who ignore our laws. Then you will die with your pride intact? Thethkara said coldly. Because without those banned human weapons, we have no chance of survival. Meanwhile, Captain Torres floated in the medical bay aboard the UES Prometheus, his body connected to dozens of monitoring devices. Dr. Sarah Kim studied the readings with growing concern. The neural bonding with the ship's ancient core was changing Torres in ways that went beyond anything they had expected. His brain patterns are completely different now, she told Admiral Chun over a secure communication link. Large sections of his human memories have been replaced with alien knowledge. Sometimes he speaks in languages that do not exist anymore. Is he still functional as a captain? Chun asked. Sarah looked at Torres, who was staring at the ceiling, with eyes that seemed to see across vast distances of space. He is incredibly effective in battle. The connection to the ship gives him abilities beyond human understanding, but I am not sure how much of Marcus Torres is left in there. Torres turned his head toward her, and Sarah felt a chill. His eyes held intelligence far beyond human capacity, but they were also cold and distant, like looking at the space between stars. The cores are not just technology, Torres said, his voice carrying harmonics that made the medical equipment. They are fragments of the universe's consciousness, pieces of the cosmic mind that first opposed the void. When we bond with them, we become part of something larger than individual existence. Marcus, do you remember your family? Sarah asked gently. Your wife and children? Torres paused for a long moment. I remember the concept of family. The emotional attachments that biological creatures form for survival. But those connections seem very small now compared to the need to preserve all existence from entropy. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. The man she had known was disappearing, replaced by something that was more than human but also less. Is there any way to reverse the bonding? Why would I want to? Torres asked, genuinely confused. I can perceive the movement of galaxies, understand the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Why would I choose to go back to the limited awareness of a single biological brain? Before Sarah could answer, alarms sounded throughout the ship. The bridge crew reported massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. Torres immediately sat up, his alien-enhanced senses detecting the threat. The Null Emperor is sending advance scouts, he said, disconnecting himself from the medical monitors. We need to intercept them before they reach inhabited systems. He walked toward the bridge with inhuman grace, his movements perfectly coordinated, despite having been unconscious moments before. Sarah followed, worried about what he was becoming, but knowing they needed his abilities to survive. The other two human ships, Titan and Nemesis, had joined the Prometheus in deep space between the galactic rim and the core worlds. Captain Rodriguez of the Titan and Captain Williams of the Nemesis had undergone similar transformations, their human personalities fading as they bonded more deeply with their ancient cores. Enemy contacts detected, reported the tactical officer aboard the Titan. 12 vessels larger than anything we have encountered before. Torres studied the sensor readings from his captain's chair, which had been modified with neural interface connections. The approaching ships were different from the previous Devourer fleets. These vessels pulsed with dark energy that seemed to warp space around them, and their size dwarfed even the largest Council battleships. These are not ordinary Devourers, Torres said, his voice echoing with cosmic knowledge. They are Entropy heralds, servants of the Null Emperor itself. Each one carries enough void energy to erase an entire star system. Can we stop them? Asked Captain Rodriguez over the communication link. Torres reached out with his expanded consciousness, feeling the approaching darkness like ice in his mind. Not with our current firepower. But there is another option. He turned to Dr. Kim, who had joined him on the bridge. Sarah, How long would it take to overload all 3 ship cores simultaneously? Her face went pale. Marcus, you cannot be serious. Overloading the cores would create a cascade reaction. The explosion would be visible from halfway across the galaxy. It would also tear a hole in space-time large enough to send the Entropy heralds back to the void where they came from, Torres replied. But the ships would be destroyed, and anyone connected to the cores would die. There has to be another way, Sarah protested. Torres looked at her with eyes that held the wisdom of ancient civilizations. Sometimes the greatest victory requires the ultimate sacrifice. But not today. We will find another solution. The 3 human ships moved into battle formation as the Entropy heralds approached. Each herald was accompanied by a swarm of smaller Devourer vessels, creating a fleet that outnumbered the humans 40-1. But Torres and his fellow captains were no longer thinking like humans. They had become something new, beings that existed partially in normal space and partially in the cosmic realm where the ancient cores originated. The battle began differently than any previous engagement. Instead of firing weapons, the 3 human ships simply moved toward the enemy fleet at impossible speeds. As they flew, reality warped around them, creating distortions in space-time that the Devourer vessels could not navigate. The Prometheus phased in and out of normal dimensions, appearing inside the enemy formation and firing point-blank shots that tore through herald armor. The Titan created gravity wells that pulled Devourer ships into crushing singularities. The Nemesis projected fields of pure creation energy that turned void-touched hulls back into normal matter. But the Entropy heralds fought back with weapons that went beyond simple destruction. They fired beams of temporal dissolution that tried to erase the human ships from history itself. They projected fields of conceptual void that attacked the very idea of existence. Torres felt each attack as a personal assault on his transformed consciousness. The herald weapons were trying to unmake not just his ship, but his identity as a thinking being. Only his connection to the ancient core allowed him to maintain coherence in the face of such fundamental negation. We cannot win this fight with conventional tactics, he broadcast to the other ships. Prepare for deep core synchronization. Marcus, no, Sarah pleaded from the bridge. The synchronization protocol is theoretical. We do not know what it will do to you. It will make us what we need to be, Torres replied simply. The 3 human captains activated their deepest neural connections simultaneously, merging their consciousness with the ancient cores completely. For a moment, they ceased to be individual humans and became something else entirely, a collective intelligence that spanned 3 ships and multiple dimensions. The synchronized fleet moved as one organism, anticipating each other's actions perfectly. Their weapons fired in precise coordination, creating overlapping fields of creation energy that trapped the Entropy heralds in cages of crystallized space-time. One by one, the massive enemy vessels were forced back into the void from which they came. When the battle ended, the 3 human ships hung motionless in space, their crews struggling to understand what had happened. The captains slowly returned to individual consciousness, but they were forever changed by the experience of collective existence. The Null Emperor knows we can oppose him now, Torres said, his voice heavy with cosmic knowledge. He will come, personally for the final battle. When he does, we will need every weapon, every ship, and every sacrifice the galaxy can provide. Back on the Council Station, emergency signals were arriving from across known space. The human fleet had somehow defeated an enemy force that should have been unstoppable. For the first time since the invasion began, there was hope that the Devourer threat could be stopped. Supreme Chancellor Valdris looked around the chamber at the remaining representatives. I believe it is time to formally request Earth's assistance. Whatever our pride costs us, it is less than the price of extinction. The vote was unanimous. The formal delegation from the Galactic Council arrived at Earth 2 days after the battle with the Entropy heralds. Supreme Chancellor Valdris himself led the group, something that had never happened in the history of human council relations. Admiral Chen met them in the underground command center, where holographic displays showed the approaching darkness that threatened to consume everything. "Admiral Chun," Valdris began, his ancient voice heavy with reluctance. "The Council formally requests Earth's assistance in defending against the Devourer invasion. We are prepared to lift all restrictions on your weapons technology in exchange for your help." Chun looked at the alien delegation with cold eyes. "Your help comes a little late, Chancellor. Half the galaxy has already been consumed while you debated politics." "We understand your anger," Valdris replied. "But surely the survival of billions of innocent lives is more important than our past disagreements. Tell that to the 3 human captains who sacrificed their humanity to save your civilizations," Chun said sharply. "Tell that to Captain Torres, who can barely remember his own name because he merged his mind with alien technology to protect people who called him a criminal." Dr. Sarah Kim stepped forward, her face showing the strain of the past weeks. "Admiral, with respect, this is not the time for recriminations. Our sensor networks are detecting massive disturbances in the galactic void. The Null Emperor itself is coming." She activated a holographic display showing readings from deep space monitoring stations. The data was terrifying. Reality itself was bending and warping as something unimaginably large moved through the darkness between galaxies. "The entity is approximately the size of a solar system," Sarah explained. "It appears to exist partially outside normal spacetime, which is why our sensors can barely detect it. When it arrives, it will not just attack our ships or planets. It will attempt to erase the concept of existence itself from this region of the universe." Valdris studied the readings with growing horror. "How long until it reaches our galaxy?" 72 hours, Sarah replied. "Maybe less if it can manipulate spacetime to travel faster." Chun turned to the Council delegation. "You want our help? Fine, but this time we do things the human way. No committees, no votes, no political considerations. My captains have the authority to use whatever methods they deem necessary to stop this threat." "Agreed," Valdris said immediately. "What do you need from us?" "Every ship you have left," Chun replied. "Not to fight. Your conventional weapons are useless against this enemy. But we need every vessel capable of carrying people to begin immediate evacuation of the core worlds. When the final battle begins, anyone still in this galaxy will likely die." The next 70 hours were a chaos of desperate preparation. Council fleets worked around the clock to evacuate civilians from thousands of worlds, while the 3 human ships prepared for a battle that would determine the fate of existence itself. Captain Torres spent his final hours of preparation in the neural interface chamber, merging so completely with the Prometheus core that his human body became little more than a biological housing for cosmic consciousness. Dr. Sarah Kim watched him with tears in her eyes as his vital signs showed patterns that were no longer human. "Marcus, can you hear me?" Torres opened his eyes, but the intelligence looking back at her was vast and alien. "I hear all things now, Sarah. The songs of dying stars, the whispers of newborn galaxies, the screams of reality itself as the void approaches. Do you remember Earth? Do you remember being human?" Torres paused, seeming to search through infinite layers of memory. "I remember ... warmth, connection, the feeling of being small and finite and precious. It was beautiful in its limitation." "You could disconnect from the core," Sarah said desperately. "Let someone else pilot the ship for this final battle." "There is no one else," Torres replied gently. "The cores will only bond with humans, and of all humans, only we 3 have gone deep enough to access their full power. This is what we were meant to become." He stood up from the interface chair, his movements perfectly coordinated despite his transformed state. "But do not mourn for us, Sarah. We are not dying. We are becoming something larger. When this battle is over, we will exist as guardians in the space between realities, protecting the universe from future threats." The Null Emperor's arrival was heralded by the failure of physics itself. Stars began going out not from explosion or collapse, but from simple negation. They stopped existing, as the entity's presence warped the fundamental laws that allowed matter and energy to function. Entire sectors of space became zones of absolute nothing. Expanding outward like a cosmic infection, the three human ships took position at the edge of the galactic core, where the concentration of stars and civilizations was greatest. Behind them, evacuation fleets carried the last refugees toward the rim worlds, hoping to escape the expanding zone of nothingness. Final core synchronization initiating, Captain Torres announced to his fellow commanders. Remember, we are not fighting to destroy the Null Emperor. That may be impossible. We are fighting to convince it that this galaxy is too well defended to be worth consuming. Captain Rodriguez of the Titan responded with a voice that carried harmonics of cosmic wind. Understood. All systems ready for maximum output. Captain Williams of the Nemesis added her own acknowledgement, her words echoing with the rhythm of galactic rotation. Core bonding at 100%. I can feel the Emperor's approach like ice in my soul. Then the Null Emperor emerged from the void between galaxies, and reality screamed. The entity was not a ship or even a creature in any recognizable sense. It was a living embodiment of entropy itself, a cosmic force that existed to return the universe to its original state of perfect emptiness. Where it moved, the very concept of existence began to break down. Planets did not explode when it passed. They simply stopped being real, as if they had been nothing more than dreams. The three human ships engaged immediately, their ancient weapons firing beams of pure creation energy at the approaching darkness. For the first time in eons, the Null Emperor felt opposition as streams of crystallized reality struck its cosmic form. The entity recoiled slightly, more from surprise than damage, but the Emperor's response was devastating. It projected waves of conceptual void that tried to erase not just the human ships, but the very ideas they represented. The attack went beyond physical destruction. It attempted to remove the concepts of heroism, sacrifice, and hope from the universe itself. Torres felt the assault on his transformed consciousness like acid burning through his thoughts. Only his deep bonding with the Prometheus core allowed him to maintain coherence as the Emperor tried to erase his existence from multiple levels of reality simultaneously. It is too strong, Williams gasped over the communication link. The void attacks are breaking down our core stability. Then we go deeper, Torres replied, his voice now carrying the weight of stellar collapse. Final protocol activation. Complete. Merger with the cosmic source. The three captains simultaneously released their hold on individual existence, allowing their consciousness to merge completely with the ancient cores. In that moment, they stopped being human and became something that had not existed since the universe was young, living weapons of creation itself. The synchronized ships moved as extensions of cosmic will, their hulls becoming translucent as they shifted between dimensions. They fired weapons that went beyond energy or matter, projecting the fundamental force that had first brought order out of chaos when the universe began. The battle that followed was fought on levels of reality that normal minds could not comprehend. The human ships did not just attack the Null Emperor's physical form, they battled it in the realm of pure concept, fighting to preserve the very ideas of existence, consciousness, and meaning against the perfect emptiness of the void. Stars died and were reborn in the crossfire. Space-time itself buckled and twisted as creation and entropy met in direct opposition. The few remaining observers watching from the galactic rim saw reality flicker, like a damaged hologram as fundamental forces clashed, but slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The ancient technology in the human ships was specifically designed for this battle, created by a civilization that had faced the Null Emperor before and learned how to wound it. Each strike from the synchronized fleet carved away pieces of the entity's cosmic form, forcing it to retreat deeper into the void. The Null Emperor's final attack was an attempt to erase the concept of opposition itself from the universe. If successful, it would remove the very possibility of resistance, making all future battles against entropy impossible. But the three human captains were ready. They projected their merged consciousness directly into the path of the void attack. using their transformed humanity as a shield for the concepts the Emperor tried to destroy. The assault shattered their individual identities completely, but in doing so, it preserved the ideas they had died to protect. The Null Emperor, wounded and frustrated by opposition it had not faced in millions of years, withdrew into the darkness. Between galaxies? The immediate threat was over, but the three human ships hung motionless in space, their crews transformed beyond recognition. Captain Torres opened his eyes one final time, looking at Dr. Sarah Kim through the ship's sensors. His voice carried the wisdom of cosmic ages as he spoke his last words as anything resembling a human being. Tell Earth that we succeeded. The galaxy is safe, and the concepts of hope and heroism will survive to inspire future generations. We go now to take our place as guardians in the void, watching for threats that might come from the darkness between realities. The three ships faded from normal spacetime, not destroyed but translated into something beyond physical existence. They became eternal sentinels in the cosmic deep, forever changed but forever vigilant. The evacuation fleets returned to find a galaxy saved but scarred. Entire sectors remained as zones of nothingness where the Null Emperor had passed, permanent, reminders of how close everything had come to ending. The Council worlds began the long process of rebuilding, but they did so with a new understanding of their place in the universe. Earth received recognition as the galaxy's protector, but it was recognition tinged with awe and fear. The other species now understood that humans possessed not just powerful technology, but the willingness to sacrifice everything for strangers who had rejected them. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the empty neural interface chamber aboard the rebuilt Prometheus Memorial Station, looking at the chair where Marcus Torres had made his final transformation. A new generation of human volunteers was training to bond with newly discovered ancient cores, preparing for threats that might emerge from the cosmic deep. Will they remember who they were? Asked a young cadet who was scheduled for core bonding. The following week, Sarah smiled sadly. They will remember the important things. Love, sacrifice, the determination to protect the innocent. Those concepts become part of the cosmic guardians when they transform. In a way, the best parts of humanity now watch over the entire universe. Outside the station's windows, normal space stretched peacefully toward distant stars. But sometimes, just at the edge of perception, observers reported seeing flashes of blue light in the darkness, the ancient guardians maintaining their eternal watch, ready to defend existence itself against any threat that might emerge from the void. The galaxy was safe, and humanity had paid the ultimate price to ensure it remained so. But in losing their champions to cosmic transformation, they had gained something greater, the knowledge that when everything was at stake, ordinary people could become the saviors of all creation.